Dr. James Morrison had no idea that his simple agricultural experiment would become the most embarrassing accident of his life. The Valerian delegation had arrived on Earth 6 months ago. First contact had gone smoothly. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchanges were planned. And somehow, James, a botanist specializing in crop enhancement, had ended up working with Lyra, a Valerian agricultural specialist, to develop hybrid fruits that could grow on both worlds. Lyra was brilliant, methodical, and possessed a dry sense of humor that James found unexpectedly charming. She had emerald green skin with subtle bioluminescent patterns along her cheekbones, and eyes that shifted between blue and violet depending on her mood. They'd spent the last 3 months in the research greenhouse, collaborating on genetic modifications that could revolutionize food production across both species. The project was nearly complete when disaster struck. "James, I'm heading to lunch," Lyra called from across the greenhouse. "Don't forget to calibrate the growth accelerator before you leave." "Already on it," James replied, tinkering with a massive machine that enhanced cellular growth in experimental produce. He'd been experimenting with optimizing the settings, trying to increase yields while maintaining nutritional value. He made the adjustment. The machine hummed to life. Then, catastrophically, he didn't notice that Lyra had brought in a basket of Valerian coconuts. Massive, brown, fruit-like orbs about the size of watermelons that her people cultivated for their sweet, nutrient-dense water. They were sitting directly in the machine's activation zone. The energy pulse fired. The coconuts began to glow. Within seconds, they started expanding. James watched in horror as they swelled larger and larger, doubling in size, then tripling. By the time he killed the machine, each coconut was the size of a small boulder. "What in the 7 galaxies?" Lyra's voice came from behind him. James turned slowly, already dreading this moment. Lyra stood in the doorway, staring at her now gigantic coconuts with an expression of absolute mortification. Her bioluminescent patterns flared bright purple, a Valerian indicator of extreme embarrassment. "I can explain," James started. "My coconuts," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. You enlarged my coconuts." The way she said it made James want to sink into the floor. He could see her struggling to maintain her professional composure, but her cheeks, already green, had flushed to a deep jade that made her patterns glow even brighter. "It was an accident. The machine malfunctioned, and I didn't see them in the activation zone." "They're enormous," Lyra interrupted, still staring at the massive fruits. Her voice had taken on a slightly hysterical quality. "James, they're absolutely enormous. What am I supposed to do with these?" "We can reverse the process," James offered desperately. "I can recalibrate the machine to shrink them back down. It might take a few hours, but—" "A few hours?" Lyra's violet eyes finally met his, and he saw the internal struggle playing out across her face. She was trying very hard not to laugh and cry simultaneously. Her patterns pulsed erratically. "Do you understand what this means? On Vela, enlarged produce is a sign of romantic interest. It's traditionally a courtship gesture. If I return to my delegation with these—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. James felt his own face turn red. Oh no. Lyra, I swear, there's nothing romantic about this. This was pure accident. Mechanical malfunction. Complete scientific error on my part." "I know," Lyra said quietly, but her blush deepened impossibly further. Her patterns now blazed so brightly that James had to squint. "But the others won't. They'll think you're interested in me." "Would that be so terrible?" The words escaped James's mouth before he could stop them. Everything went still. Lyra's bioluminescent patterns froze mid-pulse. Her eyes shifted rapidly, blue to violet to blue again. Her entire body seemed to radiate heat. "James," she said slowly, "did you just—" "I shouldn't have said that," James interrupted, suddenly terrified. "That was unprofessional. I apologize. We're colleagues. This is a workplace. I got carried away by the embarrassment of the situation, and I—" "Stop," Lyra said, stepping closer. Her blush had somehow intensified even further, her entire face now a deep, luminous jade. "I'm going to answer your unasked question. But first, we need to fix my coconuts." "Right. Yes. Of course," James said, already moving toward the control panel. As he worked to recalibrate the machine, he was hyper-aware of Lyra standing beside him, her patterns still glowing with that beautiful purple jade blush, occasionally catching him looking at her and blushing even harder. 2 hours later, the coconuts were restored to their normal size. But as Lyra prepared to leave, she paused at the door. "James, when you've completed the crop enhancement project, would you like to have dinner? On Vila, we have a tradition. When someone is interested in someone else, they share meals together. No enlarged fruit required." This time, it was James's turn to feel his entire face flush. "I would very much like that," he said. Lyra's patterns blazed brilliant purple one final time before she left, her bioluminescence lighting her way down the corridor. Sometimes, James reflected, the most groundbreaking discoveries in human-alien relations came not from scientific achievement, but from the most embarrassing accidents possible. And that, he decided, was perfectly acceptable.